6 signs your social connections shape your emotional health. Your social connections are the threads that weave together your emotional health, especially in your teens and 20s, when you're building the foundation for your mental resilience and physical well-being. Strong relationships with friends, family, or peers can lift your mood, reduce stress, and even strengthen your immune system. On the flip side, isolation or toxic relationships can erode your mental health, leaving you vulnerable to anxiety, depression, and chronic health issues. In these formative years, the way you engage with others can shape how you handle life's challenges for decades to come. The good news? Your social habits send clear signals about whether they're supporting or undermining your emotional health, giving you a chance to make changes before problems take root. In this article, we're diving into 6 research-backed signs, grounded in studies from the American Journal of Public Health and other sources, that show how your social connections impact your emotional well-being. By the end, you'll know exactly what to watch for and how to nurture relationships that boost your health and happiness. Stay with us until the end, because you might be overlooking small habits that could have a massive impact on your future. Let's get started and uncover what your social life is telling you about your emotional health. Sign 1. Social isolation. Spending most of your time alone, with little to no meaningful interaction with others, is a major sign that your social connections are shaping your emotional health. According to a 2021 study in social psychiatry and psychiatric epidemiology, social isolation increases the risk of depression and anxiety, as humans are wired for connection and thrive on social support. If you're consistently avoiding friends or social activities, your emotional health may be at risk. Imagine 2 young adults, Mia and Ethan, both 21 years old. Mia used to enjoy hanging out with friends, but has started withdrawing, spending most evenings alone in her dorm, scrolling on her phone. She feels lonelier each week, but assumes it's just a phase. Ethan, on the other hand, makes time for weekly coffee dates with friends and joins campus clubs, feeling energized by these connections. What Mia doesn't realize is that her social isolation could be fueling a cycle of loneliness and depression, increasing her risk of mental health challenges in the future. Why does social isolation matter? Humans are social creatures, and meaningful interactions release feel-good hormones like oxytocin and serotonin, which stabilize mood and reduce stress. Chronic isolation deprives you of these benefits, raising cortisol levels and weakening emotional resilience. The social psychiatry study found that isolated young adults are up to 50% more likely to develop depression by their 30s. The good news? You can rebuild connections. Start small by texting a friend to catch up, joining a club or group with shared interests, or scheduling regular calls with family. Set a goal to have at least 1 meaningful interaction per week, and avoid relying solely on social media for connection, as it often lacks depth. If you're spending most of your time alone, don't ignore it. Reach out and track how you feel after socializing. Ask yourself, do you regularly connect with others, or are you isolating? Building social ties today strengthens your emotional health tomorrow. If you're finding this information valuable, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend subscribing and turning on notifications so you don't miss any updates. Now, let's move on to the next sign. Sign 2. Toxic friendships. Maintaining toxic friendships, relationships that consistently leave you feeling drained, criticized, or stressed, is a clear sign that your social connections are shaping your emotional health. According to a 2020 study from the American Psychological Association, APA, negative relationships increase stress and inflammation, harming immunity and mental well-being. If you're stuck in a draining friendship, it may be taking a toll on your health. Consider 2 teenagers, Jake and Lily, both 19 years old. Jake stays in a friendship with someone who constantly belittles him and dismisses his feelings. He feels anxious and insecure after their hangouts, but keeps the connection out of habit. Lily, however, surrounds herself with supportive friends who uplift her, leaving her feeling confident and valued. What Jake doesn't realize is that his toxic friendship is raising his stress levels, potentially weakening his immune system and emotional resilience over time. Why do toxic friendships matter? Negative relationships trigger chronic stress, elevating cortisol and inflammatory markers that can impair immunity and increase the risk of anxiety or depression. The APA study found that toxic social ties are linked to higher rates of mental health issues in young adults. The good news? You can set boundaries or distance yourself from toxic friends. Reflect on how you feel after spending time with certain people, energized or drained. Practice saying no to plans that feel harmful, and focus on nurturing relationships that feel mutual and supportive. If you're unsure how to exit a toxic friendship, talk to a trusted friend or counselor for guidance. If you're holding on to negative relationships, don't ignore it. Evaluate your friendships and prioritize those that lift you up. Ask yourself, do your friends make you feel valued, or are they draining you? Healthy friendships today build a stronger emotional foundation tomorrow. If you're still with me and finding these insights helpful, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. Let's keep going. Sign 3, low empathy. Struggling to connect emotionally with others or understand their feelings. Low empathy is a subtle but significant sign that your social connections are shaping your emotional health. According to a 2022 study in the Journal of Social Psychology, low empathy weakens social bonds, leading to feelings of disconnection and increasing the risk of mood disorders. If you find it hard to relate to others, your emotional well-being may suffer. Picture 2 high school students, Sarah and Ava, both 17 years old. Sarah often feels detached when friends share their struggles, struggling to respond with warmth or understanding. She notices her friendships feel shallow and lacks a strong support network. Ava, however, listens actively and connects deeply with her friends' emotions, building strong, trusting relationships. What Sarah doesn't realize is that her low empathy could be limiting her ability to form meaningful connections, leaving her vulnerable to loneliness and emotional challenges. Why does low empathy matter? Empathy is the glue of social bonds, fostering trust and mutual support. When you struggle to understand others' emotions, relationships weaken, reducing the social support that buffers stress and boosts mental health. The Journal of Social Psychology found that low empathy in young adults is linked to higher rates of anxiety and depression. The good news? You can cultivate empathy. Practice active listening. Focus on what others say without planning your response, and ask open-ended questions to understand their feelings. Engage in volunteer work or group activities to build perspective-taking skills. If you feel disconnected or struggle to relate, don't brush it off. Consider talking to a counselor to explore underlying causes, like stress or past experiences. Ask yourself, do you connect emotionally with others, or do you feel detached? Building empathy today strengthens your relationships and emotional health tomorrow. If you're finding this article useful, please comment number 3 below to let me know you're here, and consider subscribing for more content like this. Now, let's move on to the next sign. Sign 4, avoiding conflict. Avoiding conflict in relationships, where you ignore issues or suppress your feelings to keep the peace, is a significant sign that your social connections are shaping your emotional health. According to a 2021 study in Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin, sidestepping conflict builds resentment and increases stress, weakening relationships and mental well-being. If you're dodging tough conversations, your emotional health may be at risk. Think about 2 young adults, Liam and Emma, both 23 years old. Liam avoids addressing issues with his roommate, like unpaid bills or messy habits, letting frustration build until he feels resentful. His stress spills into other areas of his life. Emma, however, calmly discusses concerns with her friends or family, resolving issues and maintaining strong bonds. What Liam doesn't realize is that his conflict avoidance is creating emotional tension, raising his stress levels and straining his relationships, which could impact his mental health over time. Why does avoiding conflict matter? Healthy relationships require open communication to resolve disagreements and maintain trust. Suppressing issues leads to resentment, which elevates stress hormones like cortisol, harming emotional and physical health. The Personality and Social Psychology study found that conflict avoidance is linked to higher anxiety and weaker social ties. The good news? You can learn to handle conflict constructively. Practice assertive communication. Use "I feel" statements to express your needs calmly, and approach issues with a problem-solving mindset. Start with small concerns to build confidence, and seek mediation or counseling if conflicts feel overwhelming. If you're avoiding tough conversations, don't let it fester. Reflect on one issue you've been dodging and plan to address it. Ask yourself, do you tackle relationship issues, or do you sweep them under the rug? Resolving conflicts today strengthens your emotional health tomorrow. If you're still reading and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. Let's move on to the next sign. Sign 5, poor communication. Poor communication, where you struggle to share your feelings or needs with others, is a critical sign that your social connections are shaping your emotional health. According to a 2020 study in the American Journal of Public Health, not expressing emotions isolates you from others, increasing the risk of mental health issues like depression or anxiety. If you're keeping your feelings bottled up, your relationships and well-being may suffer. Consider 2 college students, Chloe and Noah, both 20 years old. Chloe rarely shares her struggles, even with close friends, hiding her stress or sadness to avoid seeming weak. She feels increasingly disconnected and lonely. Noah, however, openly discusses his feelings with friends, seeking advice or support, which strengthens his bonds and boosts his mood. What Chloe doesn't realize is that her poor communication is isolating her, limiting the support that could protect her emotional health, and increasing her risk of mental health challenges. Why does poor communication matter? Sharing emotions fosters trust and intimacy in relationships, creating a support network that buffers stress and enhances resilience. Keeping feelings hidden isolates you, reducing access to this support and increasing feelings of loneliness. The American Journal of Public Health found that poor emotional communication in young adults is linked to higher rates of depression. The good news? You can improve communication. Practice expressing your feelings in small ways, like telling a friend how a tough day made you feel, and build up to deeper conversations. Journaling can help clarify your emotions before sharing. If you struggle to open up, don't ignore it. Consider talking to a therapist to build communication skills. Ask yourself, do you share your feelings with others, or do you keep them inside? Open communication today builds stronger relationships and emotional health tomorrow. If you're finding this article helpful, please comment number 5 below to let me know you're here, and consider subscribing for more content like this. Now, let's move on to the final sign. Sign 6, neglecting family ties. Drifting from family connections, where you rarely reach out or engage with relatives, is a subtle but important sign that your social connections are shaping your emotional health. According to a 2023 study in family relations, neglecting family ties reduces your emotional support network, increasing the risk of anxiety and loneliness. If you're disconnected from family, you may be missing a key source of emotional grounding. Picture 2 young adults, Ryan and Olivia, both 24 years old. Ryan rarely calls or visits his family, citing a busy work schedule, and feels a growing sense of disconnection, especially during tough times. Olivia, however, makes time for weekly calls with her parents and visits her siblings regularly, feeling anchored by these ties. What Ryan doesn't realize is that neglecting his family ties is limiting his emotional support, potentially increasing his vulnerability to stress and mental health issues in the future. Why do family ties matter? Family provides a unique source of emotional stability, offering unconditional support and a sense of belonging that buffers life's challenges. Drifting from these ties reduces this safety net, leaving you more vulnerable to stress and isolation. The Family Relations Study found that young adults with weak family connections report higher rates of anxiety and lower life satisfaction. The good news? You can reconnect with family. Start with a simple text or call to check in, schedule regular catch-ups, or plan visits for holidays or special occasions. If family relationships are strained, focus on one positive connection or seek counseling to rebuild ties. If you're drifting from family, don't let it continue. Reach out this week and notice how it feels. Ask yourself, are you close with your family, or have you drifted apart? Strong family ties today boost your emotional health tomorrow. Final thoughts. Now that you've explored these 6 signs, social isolation, toxic friendships, low empathy, avoiding conflict, poor communication, and neglecting family ties. Take a moment to reflect on your own social connections. Are your relationships supporting your emotional health, or are there habits that need attention? The good news is that your social life is within your control, and the connections you build in your teens and 20s can shape your mental and physical well-being for decades. Start today by nurturing positive relationships. Reach out to a friend, set boundaries with toxic connections, practice empathy, and communicate openly. Reconnect with family, address conflicts constructively, and seek out communities that share your interests. If you're noticing signs like isolation, poor communication, or strained ties, don't wait. Talk to a trusted friend, family member, or therapist to rebuild your support network. Your social connections are the backbone of your emotional health, and investing in them now can ensure a future full of resilience and joy. Don't let unhealthy habits define your relationships. Prioritize connection today and build a stronger, happier tomorrow. Comment number 20 to stay in the loop for more insights like this.